Hello and welcome back to Fusili Chemicals and the Open Synthesizer. Today we're going to be synthesizing anal lube, surprisingly enough. So we're not only going to be synthesizing one molecule, but multiple molecules, namely glycerin, propylene glycol, sorbitol, methylparaben, benzoic acid, hydroethyl cellulose, and water. Water is the easiest to be honest, and unfortunately we couldn't quite include sodium hydroxide because there is no sodium in the precursor catalog. So or any compound that contains sodium. So if anyone can make a mod about that includes more elements into the game, maybe we can make much better chemicals. So we're going to be skipping the sodium hydroxide for this reaction or for this chemical. So we're gonna start with the glycerin over here, and this glycerin, and we are synthesizing it from two water molecules, one methanol molecule, what else? And a propene molecule. And here's how it is synthesized. So as you can see, the bonds are done correctly, and unfortunately, it may be the case that sometimes you'll see an additional hydrogen molecule in one of these carbon molecules, and the problem with that is that the game is programmed such that when there's enough space or when there's not much hydrogen molecules there, that means the valence electrons in these guys would be vacant, and so they would share valence electrons and share a bond. So instead of it being just a single bond, which is what's supposed to happen or what's supposed to be in the molecule, it will become a double bond. So if there's an update in the future wherein Zachtronics sort of makes it more open, maybe in a sandbox mode, which oddly enough I'm sort of making a concept of over here with Fusili Chemicals. It would be nice if we could have just singular bonds, and then we would have singular H molecules attached to these carbon atoms. So moving on, next we have propylene glycol. And propylene glycol is used in a bunch of stuff. Okay, if you guys haven't seen it by now, I'm using the methyl hexanamine build platform or thing. So you will notice when I open the precursor catalog, there will be this monograph over here where it says it's a stimulant, and it may not be the case that what I'm synthesizing is what's seen in the monograph. So there's that. So here's not methyl hexanamine, but rather here's propylene glycol, and it's not quite the same, and it's actually relatively simple. It only uses 1 to 5 instructions to construct it, and only 2 Waldos. But to be honest, the most challenging part of this entire process of creating anal lube in this game is constructing the hydroethyl cellulose, because the hydroethyl cellulose does not fit inside the build platform, so I had to split it up into 4 sections, which I will show later. So here's the propylene glycol. And propylene glycol, as I've heard, is used in alcohol, drinking alcohol, alcoholic beverages and stuff like that. They use that as a sort of, I believe, a taste sort of chemical for taste. And so, right, moving on. Next we have sorbitol. And sorbitol, as far as I know, is used in gum. So there's that, and I think it's what makes it sticky and consistency. And you notice that there's a bunch of these methanol atoms, and this is really where it's constructed from. And it really only uses one Waldo that moves along and reduces each of these guys to have just a singular H molecule. So, and now the good thing about this is that I can have single bonds while maintaining each of these, one hydrogen per carbon, rule of thumb. And if you'll see the Lewis structure of sorbitol, this actually lines up with it, where there's a bunch of H molecules, and then there's also some of these attached OH molecules, and in the end there's a C3OH or C2OH, and that checks out over here and then over here. So moving on, we have methylparaben, and this one is a bit of a doozy, but it was still easy to construct, and it only required a couple of instructions to do. So we use a a benzene molecule here, one water molecule, and two methanol molecules. And here's the build process. Went overboard a bit. So here it is. So this one over here is my methylparaben. And methylparaben, as you notice, will have a double bond for this oxygen molecule here. And it's pretty nice that I can do it. I can do it properly here and actually synthesize the actual molecule. And also the double bonds in the benzene structure over here in the middle actually lines up, and it is attached to an additional OH molecule or HO molecule to the left. So that's my methylparaben. Next is benzoic acid, and here it is, benzoic acid. And again, very simple molecule to construct. The only if I had a bigger build platform, I would build the entire thing, the entire molecule, a singular anal lube molecule, inside this singular, in a singular build platform, but I couldn't, so there's that. And also, if we could have added more Waldos, maybe that would be nice. So if Zachtronics would want to make a sandbox, maybe an infinite build platform would be nice, such as, you know, for a spaceflight simulator. All right, so here's my benzoic acid, and again, it's like my methylparaben, it's constructed from a benzene molecule, one methanol molecule, and one water molecule. And then we just simply strip a bunch of them out in order to get my benzoic acid, or singular benzoic acid molecule. So there's this. So moving on to the next part, which is the hydroethyl cellulose. I broke it up into 4 parts, as you'll see over here. And I want to discuss a little something. So let me just open up what hydroethyl cellulose looks like. So as you can see, there's a bunch of I don't know if you guys can see this, but there are lines that divide it into 4 sections. And so the first part will be the upper left part, and then the second part will be the upper right part, upper right quadrant. The third part will be the down right section, and the fourth part will be the down left section. And to be honest, the hydroethyl cellulose was the hardest one to synthesize among them all. Consider I had to split them apart. I had to consider the bonds, and there was a problem with the fourth part about, you know, those double bonds once again. So I had to break my rule of thumb about there being only one H atom for each of these guys. Oh, no, you guys didn't see the thing on the side. It still says open synthesizer. But the point is, there are 4 parts for the hydroethyl cellulose. And so, yeah. So let's get to the first part. Here's my hydroethyl cellulose, part 1. And, wait. I think I messed that up. There was no instructions there, but the point is, it was supposed to give me that C over there, and you guys can probably see it from here, how this will be constructed. So I would strip off this atom, and then I'll strip up a bunch of these H atoms so that I can get proper bonds, maybe even, there are no double bonds, and eliminate some of these guys. There will be an extra C molecule over here, which will bond to the next part, and we'll also strip away some of these O molecules so that we can get a good bond. So let's go on and move to part 2. So this is the second part, and this time there are instructions. So forgive me for sort of not supplying that in the first place, or in the first part. So here's the build process. It's a bit slow, but in the end you get the upper left quadrant of my hydroxyethyl cellulose. So this is part 2. Next, let's open up part 3. Here's part 3. And same thing. We're just stripping a bunch of atoms, rearranging some stuff so that we get good bonds. And so this represents the down right part of my hydroxyethyl cellulose. And let's move on to the final part. Is just this mess over here. And we had to do a bunch of moving around, rotating in order to get things right. And this is where I had to break my rule of thumb, or the rule of thumb about these bonds, about there being only one H molecule, because again it would make double bonds, and that's not in the Lewis structure of the actual atom. So there's that. So again, I couldn't construct the sodium hydroxide part because there's no sodium in the current version of Molek-Syntez. So there's that. So in universe, there is no base, or at least we don't have sodium accessible at the moment, even though we sort of have it in all our kitchens. So there's that. And water, it's just an O molecule. There's no need to modify it, construct anything, add atoms, remove atoms, whatever. It's just a water molecule, and it's already part here. And in fact, that's the largest. This is the molecule that has the largest percentage in anal lube, because obviously it's water based, and it allows them to have, a lot more rather than just few of it. So there's that. So there's my anal lube.